Welcome, foolish mortals.
Back to my cozy little corner of the internet. Here we love movies. I'm Charlie, the vampiric Barbie, your host, and in today's video we're going to be ranking the Halloween films, all the way from John Carpenter's 1978 masterpiece through to David Gordon Green's Evil Dies Tonight trilogy.
Evil Dies Tonight!
And of course including Rob Zombie's 2 additions to the franchise. But I will not be ranking Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I was watching other people's videos and they just kind of plonked it anywhere. We're all here for Michael and he's not in that one. So without further ado, vampires, witches, werewolves, girls with a mask fetish.
We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Join me as we bottom to top the Halloween movies. Coming in last place for me is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, released in 1995, directed by Joe Chappelle. Now there are 2 versions of this film, a theatrical release and a producer's cut. Both are shockingly shit. The movie's original title was Halloween 666, but it was changed because they believed that the production was cursed. And I can assure you that the only thing cursed about this film is my eyeballs having to sit through it. This film is an absolute load of crap. It lacks direction, cohesion. It kind of goes for campy without meaning to, so it just kind of lacks any substance or charm for me. You can tell that director Joe Chappelle had absolutely zero interest in making this film in his little 3-picture deal with Miramax.
I don't care.
Daniel Harris, who previously played Jamie Lloyd, was not asked to return. But we do have returning character Dr. Loomis, of course played by Donald Pleasence, but he shortly died after filming, and in post-production they wanted to refilm scenes and all sorts of stuff, and Chappelle believed that Dr. Loomis talked too much. In this film, Loomis just feels like a completely different character, and he's very much so reminiscent of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park.
Boy, I hate being right all the time.
Which is crazy because he's my favourite character and I absolutely love him. But Ian Malcolm acts as a mouthpiece for Michael Crichton, and there are only so many times I can hear Dr. Loomis, you know, Michael is the bane of all evil.
The evil is gone.
Simply evil.
You don't know what death is.
We know. I don't need to. This is the 6th movie, man. But we're just kind of left with a choppy, weird mess, and it doesn't feel like a cohesive character to me. The only good thing about this film for me is Paul Rudd's portrayal of Tommy Doyle. I prefer him much more to the kind of angsty emo portrayal we get in Halloween Kills.
Evil Dies Tonight!
Not my bag. I really like Paul Rudd's version. He reminds me a lot of Laurie, which I think makes more sense chronologically. Michael has never looked worse. It doesn't really have any memorable kills in the perspective of the whole franchise. It's all just kind of meh. You know, the good portrayal of Tommy Doyle is already bogged down with bad production, bad writing. Don't even get me started on the Curse of Thorn angle. Not my cup of tea. Silly, ridiculous. Thank you, next. Coming in after Halloween 6 is Halloween Resurrection, directed by Rick Rosenthal, released in 2002. Jamie Lee Curtis considers this movie a joke, and so do I.
Well, Halloween Resurrection was a joke.
So much so that she actually didn't want to be a part of the promotional poster for the film, and they just had to copy and paste that head from H2O. This film doesn't resurrect much for me, except for confusion and disappointment.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
And surprisingly, because Rick Rosenthal is of course responsible for Halloween 2, I know which one I would rather have on my resume. You know, for me, the Blair Witch camera-esque angles and the Y2K celebrity ensemble, I just think it's lazy filmmaking. It does nothing for me. It's boring. Jamie Lee Curtis was fulfilled with her goodbye to Laurie Strode in H2O, but she was contractually obliged to feature in this film for a 30-second cameo, but they wrote her character out so that she would not have to come back. And as controversial and as confusing,
I don't want to talk about that.
I have to say it's probably the most interesting, I think it's like 11 minutes or something of the beginning of the movie. The 8th installment in the Michael Myers craze is just unmeaningful, bland and dull. Now we have Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, released in 1989, directed by Dominique Athenian Gerard. It was the lowest grossing Halloween at the box office. Other than Jamie Lloyd being mute for more than half of this movie, who I will say is probably the strongest acting cast member, other than Donald Pleasence, this film is actually not half bad in comparison to the other 2. I just really wish that they didn't brush over the ending of film 4. If this film was not a part of the Michael multiverse, it would have been lost to horror history and cinema a very, very long time ago. This film feels like a chore to most on a rewatch, a part of the Halloween chronology. Kind of gained some nostalgic fuzz around the edges, but not enough funness to save itself from almost the bottom of my list. Overly sexualised teenagers with the 80s backdrop, 80s gore. It's uninspired, but it kind of acts as an appropriate filler in the Jamie, Dr. Loomis storyline. Again, thorn, angle, tattoo thing, not my favourite. It's certainly not the best, but it is not the worst. Next is Halloween 2, released in 2009, directed by Rob Zombie. Now, I do want to say I am a massive Rob Zombie fan. I love his music and I love him. I feel like I just get him. He hated making this film and it shows. I really feel like Rob Zombie's vision is just playing catch up to itself in this film with all the White Horse crap. Any excuse to put Sherry Moon Zombie in there. Shut up! You know, as annoying as she is, my biggest fault with this film is Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie. She's fucking so annoying. McDowell's Loomis, what the... I read in an interview that he didn't want to play the character the same way twice, and I appreciate Zombie for wanting to do different things with the franchise, but it just doesn't make any sense. It goes for extreme and it kind of just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Exceptional performances though, of course, from Brad Dourif and Danielle Harris. You know, the usual gore for Zombie is really fun, wish there was more of it. Tyler Mane as Michael, mask, no mask, I don't really care. He is fucking gruesome as Michael. The grunts don't really bother me that much. I think visually he just looks epic. He looks really cool. I love Zombie's take on Michael, but with the whole backstory and everything, it's just not my favourite. There's too much going on for it to be any kind of good. Coming in next is Halloween Ends, released in 2022, and of course directed by David Gordon, should be banned from making movies green. This is the first of the Evil Dies Tonight trilogy to make it to my list.
Evil dies tonight!
This movie is like 2 hours long and should just not exist, in my opinion. The best bits from Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends should have just been merged together to make one epic Michael Myers flick. It didn't happen, so here we are. The two of these films kind of get bogged down by awful script writing and directions, so they're kind of just so-so. They almost hit the mark, but not quite.
But now it needs to die.
Needs to die.
But I do want to say, although the Gordon Green movies are kind of hit or miss, they have massive, massive production value. They're big, they're epic, which just alone makes them have massive rewatch value for me. Oh, the gore in this film is glorious. I just wish there was so much more of it. Poor Jamie Lee Curtis absolutely smashes her way through this dog-awful script. She is as brilliant as she possibly can be in this film, and I think that it gives a very thoughtful and satisfying goodbye to Laurie Strode. The latter half of this film definitely shines more than the first. Around the 1 hour 30 mark, we get that epic scene between Michael and Laurie, you know, the whole thing that we've been waiting for the last 2.5 movies. We get it, and it delivers, it serves, it gives us intimacy, baby. It's so well filmed. The music, the gore, the camera angles, the ambience, the soundtrack, the acting, of course, between the two of them is just chef's kiss. I absolutely love it, and it claws its way from the bottom of the list for me on that scene alone. I'm not the biggest fan of the Corey storyline. Ugh, I can't believe I'm going to say this. This film reminds me of Jurassic World Dominion. So bad. Colin Trevorrow does this thing
I really hate that man.
where he goes, at the last half an hour of Jurassic World Dominion, he goes, "Hi, you're introduced to this character. Now, we spent the last 2.5 movies building up a really great plot, but then we're going to give you a character that's completely irrelevant, and we're going to make that person responsible for the whole other 2.5 movies." Ugh, this film bugs me, because I think Corey would have been such a great character to introduce in Halloween Kills, you know, with all of that wasted time shouting "Evil Dies Tonight."
Evil dies tonight!
We could have done so much there. My biggest pet peeve with this film is surprisingly not the script. Why the fuck is Michael living in the sewer? I understand that the Myers house got demolished and everything is in the beginning of the film, but it feels like a lazy convention that the producers know will work because they know that people are scared of it, because which demonic clown lives in the sewers? I'm bored. I've seen it before. I appreciate David Gordon Green for wanting to go in a new direction with the franchise, but why now? Why in the last film? It could have done some Halloween Kills, but oh well. That is why it comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have Rob Zombie's Halloween, released in 2007. Brad Dourif in another spooky Halloween franchise is a dream come true.
Hey, lesbos.
You know, as much as I love Zombie, the whole Michael Myers origin story is not for me. And I absolutely cannot stand the boring dialogue at the beginning of this film.
You know that new waitress over at the Bingo Lounge? She can give me the freaky eye.
Oh, the whore with the big tits hanging down to her knees?
Maybe I'll choke the chicken, purge my snorkel all over them flappy ass tits.
Feels like an excuse just to get an F-bomb in or two, you know, to make the zombie mark. I'm not Sherry Moon Zombie's biggest fan at the best of times. I think she's fine. This film really picks up in the second half, and I really appreciate McDowell's performance. It feels a lot more faithful to Loomis, but kind of with his own little sparkle. I don't love this movie. I don't hate it. It's not my favourite, but it's a fun watch. Then we have Evil Dies Tonight, released in 2021, directed by David Gordon Green.
Evil dies tonight!
Of course, Halloween Kills. Like with Halloween Ends, this movie is 2 hours too long. Michael looks, I've written in my notes, Michael looks sexy AF in this film. Is the best he's ever looked, and I wish there was so much more gore in this film, because what gore we do get is amazing. The beginning scene of this film is what puts it above Ends for me, with the firefighters. Oh my god, it's amazing. It really staples this film. Green is clearly trying to pay homage to Halloween 2 in this installment. I get it. I get all the little Easter eggs to the other Halloween films, and rewatching them I have a genuine newfound appreciation for all of them. But the script in this film is the worst out of all 3 of the films. Jamie Lee Curtis cannot save herself.
We fight. We always fight.
Slogging chaos, one might say. It's a little bit more fun when you put Ends on the end of the trilogy, but this film just kind of feels like it has no heart. And I will tell you why, because they decided to kill the heart of the film, Karen. I love Judy Greer in this franchise. I think her arc is really well written and really well performed. I think she's just really likeable. Then at number 5, we have Halloween 2, released in 1981, directed by Rick Rosenthal. The only reason why this is high up on the list is because it feels directly corresponding to the original. Michael still has his original look, and Laurie is still as badass as ever. The hospital bath kill in this film is one of my favourites in the whole franchise, and you know, the scenario at the time felt fresh and exciting, and I could appreciate this film with a nostalgic lens for sure. Coming in at number 4, we have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, released in 1988 and directed by Dwight H. Little. My biggest gripe with this film is Michael's reincarnation. It's a load of rubbish, it's silly, it's campy.
Alright, for hug, conda for hug, down.
And the whole kind of mummified Michael does nothing for me. It's ridiculous because it doesn't have enough ambience to support it. It's my biggest flaw with this film. The mask, we're going to ignore it. It's not the worst. The tension is gorgeous. It's a perfect sequel, and especially with the loss of Jamie Lee Curtis, it stands strong. Top 3.
Are you yawning in the middle of this while I'm breaking it down?
Coming in at number 3, we have Halloween H2O, 20 years later. Of course, released in 1998 and directed by Steve Miner. Jamie Lee Curtis is back.
Hey, Michael! Come on! God, he's so slow. Walks and walks.
After her anticipated return after Halloween 2, of course, this is Halloween's first example of trying to wipe away the rest of the franchise films. Speaking of Laurie, I love her in this film. We're very, very fortunate because we've had the best of both worlds now, because we get to see the kind of two ways you can become after having a traumatic experience, right?
Trauma. This is what trauma looks like.
In this film, she's not bitter, she's not prepared, she's moving on with her life, but when Michael gets there, she's like, and they kill him. And I love it.
I'm in the car, okay? Lock, loaded, and hunting your motherfucking ass down.
This film is entertaining and beautifully of its time, but there is one reason why it topples to number 3 for many fans, and that is the mask. Famously, there are 4 of them in this film. It's a distraction after a first time watch. The table confrontation in this film, and of course the ending. Some of my favourite moments in the whole franchise. I absolutely love it. I love this film. It's great. So coming in second place is a very controversial pick, I feel, because a lot of people really do not like this movie, and I really, really love it, and it's the 2018 Halloween, directed by David Gordon Green. Like I said before, watching this trilogy in order with its ending and rewatching all of the other Halloween films before it, there are so many Easter eggs, and I really do have a newfound appreciation for this trilogy, other than its dog dire script, which I have no excuses for. It is big, it's epic, and it can be watched as a standalone. I love the pacing in this film, which is why the other two installments were such a letdown. We spend appropriate time with all the central characters, and Michael in all his glory. The scene where he opens the car boot and he puts his mask on is, oh, it's sexy. The final confrontation, of course, between Laurie and Michael in this film cements itself in horror history. Absolutely knows where it's going and is reminiscent of the original, which is why it's in second place on my list. How could I not put the original Halloween, released in 1978, directed by John Carpenter, at the top of my list? This film has stood the absolute test of time, and it is the king of ambience. There is hardly any blood in this film, but you don't notice, because it's so darn scary. The characters are concise, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, which is very rare for the Halloween franchise. The film had a budget of $300,000, and 20k of that went to Donald Pleasance for 5 days' work, but it went on to make $47 million at the box office. Even with limited resources, this film just proves that simplicity sometimes wins. This film's impact is huge. It changed the cinematic horror landscape and absolutely proved what you can do with a limited budget. And John Carpenter, he's made some crap in his time, but this film is just a master in suspense, and he builds excitement and tension so effectively. Of course, Dr. Loomis, Laurie Strode, Michael Myers all went on to become icons of the silver screen in their own right. Just let me know your rankings in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I will see you next time.